What's up, I'm Karl, and in this recipe, I'm going to show you how you can take out the next button from your module and instead replace it with kind of a conversational tone. And I'm going to show you some examples of ways that I actually have something that functions like a next button, but instead it's sort of a response to the different questions that I'm using as a narrator. So I'm going to show you a couple examples, first the published version, and then we'll go into the source file and I'll show you some of the subtleties of different ways that you can approach and make this style your own. I found this is a technique that I can do so that I spend the same amount of time as I would developing a page turner, but it gives me an alternative in that what feels different and more interactive and more engaging. Same amount of time, different output, I'm all for it. Let me show you how it works. Okay, so this is a module that I built for a company who works in the medical industry, and it was all about protected health information. So instead of just saying next, I have little things like, yeah, I'll try what? I actually may get people to read your slides. So I do a little trick here where I just have two different choices. It's kind of weird. You're making me think during an e-learning module? How strange. Tell me more. Okay, good. So I'll show you this was just a simple slide layer, and both of those buttons will eventually get you here. Because we have a conversational tone, I'm using a variable so that people actually have to put in their name. I had it locked down so that people couldn't do it. You'll notice there's no next buttons here. In the final version, I did have a menu so that people could jump from section to section where they wanted, but it isn't just a race to hit the next button as fast as you can. So I'm going to click that I'm from Louisville. I've got a little follow-up, and it asks you a question, and the answer isn't obvious. So I'm, again, trying to steer people in. I want to steer people into taking the course, reading the material. So you'll see there, instead of locking it down and saying, oh, you have to hit the next button, or you can't hit the next button until the narrator is done talking, we've made this module, it's completely silent so that people can read it. We spent some time working on how fast the animations come in, and then we use these as little pause buttons. So they have a working example below. If you visit the link below this video, you'll see that you can actually go and click some of those choices on your own. But there's one more example I wanted to show you because this works really well too for software training. So let me show you that approach. Okay, so this is the same sort of approach. You'll see there, this was for people who work in shipping. So it's all about the new system that's going to help them find the boxes they need to pick and get loaded onto the truck. So we have picking tasks. I actually built this slide. I clicked that a little fast here, but I used the pause timeline player, and then I put resume timeline on these different buttons so that I could have one thing. Again, this is for people that don't have access to headsets, so we wanted to make it so they could read. Everybody reads at a different pace, so I'm using these buttons really just sort of like think of them as speed bumps. A speed bump is a lot easier for a learner to handle emotionally than it is to have a scrubber bar that you can click and nothing happens, or a next button that just flashes a lock button at you. So if you're building courses that are locked down, consider switching the tone and try something like this. So you see here, I've got a little question. It says, okay, so what's a zone? That was a new concept. So I wanted really to steer people and to help get them thinking about things that they don't know. So here's a little definition for what the zones are, and then the button's giving me a clear indication of where I have to go. Go back to the demo. So I'm not going to go ahead and play through the whole. Again, we have the version, there's a link to it, so you can see this module and go through and experience it on your own. Okay, so now looking into the storyline file itself, if you're familiar with groups, that effect I did, we just have a lot of clip art people, and it's a picture that's really wide, so it was moving. We're not really talking about that so much. I have a simple button with just a little hover state on it so that it gets lighter. And then you see here, there's my jump to next slide button. So we have a jump to next slide button here, and on this one, I wanted them to think about it a little bit and to start discerning between where the next button is. So we had a show layer here. I used a little variable there where they actually have to type in their name before they can click next. Had it choose, so this shows the variable that we use to talk to them in their conversational tone, and then the different cities that were all for this company. So then again, you have here just other questions. Would you want to share that information? We wanted to make this module about protecting other people's information kind of hit you at home and say, hey, now I just asked you for your social security number. How does that feel? We have a desire to protect our own information. So I'm doing the same trick where it's like, here we have a layer and a next button. So for this one, it would say, I'd tell you, and it says, oh, there's more classes you should take on data security. So we didn't really go into that. I think people wouldn't really do that, but we give them a different path through. You'll see this is still a linear course, but with these extra choices here, you could show the layer. It looks like really we should have swapped those buttons so that it's not always that this is next and this is the layer beforehand that you would flip through, so that people are actually looking and interacting and thinking a little bit. We just want the mental wheels to turn. That's an important part of this. So there we go. And then just a quick summary. So this next button, it's like, hey, quick summary. What are you? You are a protector. That is your role. We all play a role in keeping protected information safe. Okay, so to wrap things up, use this style as a way of engaging and conversing with your audience. It doesn't cost any more to do. It doesn't take any longer. It's more fun to build. It's more fun to take. It's even easier to process cognitively. When someone's speaking to you directly, it's easier for you to understand because you're used to people talking to you all the time. Compare that to reading bulleted lists about facts that may or may not apply to you and how. That's harder to process. So a conversational tone where you're saying, hey, you wouldn't want to give someone your social security, would you? No, that's an easy answer. So this is a very simple method. It's something that I've showed you how to do in Storyline, but really you can do it with any e-learning tool. And I hope it serves you well. Enjoy this recipe and go out and get cooking.